Hello and welcome to Members on the Mic with the Troy Chamber of Commerce. I'm Tara Thompson-Cusack, President and CEO of the Troy Chamber of Commerce. And I'm joined today by my lovely co-host and Vice President of the Chamber, Sheila Dunstad.
Hello, all.
First, I'd like to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsor, Trion Solutions. Stay tuned for the very first commercial break where you can learn how you can rely on Trion. So, Sheila, we've got a great show ahead of us today. Why don't you let us know who our guest is?
I would love to, and I'm very excited to read this, so bear with me as I do. Today, we are meeting with attorney Barton Morris. Barton is the principal and founding attorney of the law offices of Barton Morris and the Cannabis Legal Group. For over 20 years, he's provided legal counsel and services in the areas of criminal defense, real estate, and business law. He's dedicated to ensuring clients receive the highest quality of service while delivering results. Barton also continues to volunteer his time serving on various legal and industry association boards and committees, teaching, and being legal expert in areas of his practice. Professional recognition includes 10 for 10 rating by AVVO, Outstanding Attorney by Super Law Magazine since 2015, Top Attorney in Metro Detroit in D-Business Magazine annually, and Our Detroit Face of Cannabis Law in 2016. He regularly appears as a guest legal commentator on Fox 2 Detroit, Fox Let It Rip, Channel 7, NPR, and WWJ News Radio 950. Sought after as a thought leader and legal expert, Barton appears often in Detroit Free Press, Metro Times, and MLive. But despite all of these accomplishments, let me try this again.
Do it.
Despite all of these accomplishments, he believes his most important one is the results he and the firm continue to obtain for his clients. Barton, welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you reading that so well.
Wow,
Thank
so
you.
you're not at all an overachiever by any way.
My best achievements are ahead of me.
Oh, I like. Oh, well
Dang, mic
said.
drop.
I know, man. And the show is over. No, I'm just teasing. So, Barton, obviously, thanks for joining us. But, why cannabis law? Like, obviously, this is a new thing moving into Michigan. I mean, it's not that new, but why cannabis?
As Sheila indicated, I started doing criminal defense, and in that position, I was representing a lot of people that were being prosecuted, jailed for cannabis. And not only that, there was a lot of asset forfeiture. And so what I mean by that is that the police were using growing marijuana in their homes as a means to take all of their stuff, all of their money and their jewelry and their cars.
Oh, wow.
Right. That was really offensive to me. And when I saw that happening regularly where police were, and they got that money, right? Like it's not like they were doing it for the state. They had a personal interest in taking that money. And so that was really offensive to me. And so that's something that I began to fight against pretty seriously. I've sued the state and different counties for their asset forfeiture laws. Some of those cases are still pending. But it really led me to understand the importance of the legalization of marijuana and decriminalization of marijuana. And that's what I really got into the cannabis law back in about 2012 and representing a lot of people that were really unfairly prosecuted, convicted, and jailed for these types of offenses, nonviolent drug offenses.
Well, and it's interesting, like you said, there's a lot of things people don't understand, and you're looking at it from this is now a business. This is now an industry. So I had no idea about the forfeitures or any of that piece as well. So this started even before it was legalized.
Right. We legalized marijuana in 2018, also decriminalized it, which I was very much a part of and assisted with that effort over the course of many years. We really started that effort in 2015 and thankfully accomplished it in 2018. And Michigan was pretty early on that accomplishment as far as I think the 18th or 19th state at that point. That had medical marijuana. We were the 9th or 10th state at that point to have recreational marijuana. So that's pretty early on, for the industry. Now we're about 15 to 20 states right now have recreational marijuana. Anyways, it began with really just the requirement to get rid of the criminalization aspect. And then when medical marijuana back in 2015 and 16 began to be commercialized, I was also sought after in order to assist the industry in that regard as well. And that's when I created a practice area around delivering business services to people and companies really seeking to achieve their dream, because a lot of people really have dreamt about having a marijuana dispensary or commercial cultivation facility. And so now we help people all the time do that.
Well, talking about that, tell us a little bit about the economic conditions here in Michigan with the cannabis industry. How's it affected the job market?
Well, a lot of people think that the cannabis industry is just automatically like this amazing industry where people are going to just be millionaires automatically. And unfortunately, because of federal illegality and criminalization continued, then it's a lot difficult. It's a lot more difficult to run a cannabis business. There's banking issues that are financial issues that are causing significant problems. For instance, traditional financial services are not available to most cannabis companies, right? So there's a lot of cash having to be dealt with. Also, there's no institutional lending, right? So like any business that you might be imagining can go to a bank and get a loan, right? I mean, that's a very common thing, right? Like people, this is, Startup Nation. That's how people start up. They go out and get a loan. Can't do that in the cannabis industry. And so it's all dependent upon private equity, people that basically have money already, which is also really offensive to minorities. It's more difficult for minorities to be able to get into the industry when you can't get a loan to do that. So that causes an issue. Then there's the tax issues as well. Federal tax laws penalize cannabis companies too. And so there's a lot of different economic situations that are caused by the federal illegality that makes it difficult. That being said, there is a lot of consumer demand here in Michigan. And so there's been a number of municipalities that have benefited from having commercial cannabis facilities in their municipalities. It does lead to more jobs, and it does lead to more economic development and real estate, right? Because a lot of the dispensaries and grow operations that are in operation right now, they're in buildings that were previously uninhabited or dilapidated. And so there's a lot of good economic things that have occurred because of the industry, and that's going to continue to occur. So there's been good and bad.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't want to make a pot joke, but so you're saying they have to have a pot of money in order to have a pot dispensary. Sorry, too bad, too far.
I haven't heard that one.
I wanted that one to come out really soon. But I mean, like you said, so are there taxes as well that is going back into it as these dispensaries are opening in the areas?
Sure, we have an excise tax in Michigan, and we did our best to try to keep it as low as possible. Other states have 20, 30%. Our excise tax is 10%, and that generates a good amount of money for the state that is dedicated to fixing and repairing our roads, to our educational system, and back to municipalities to reward them and provide additional economic benefit in order to reward them and encourage them to have marijuana facilities in their municipalities.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, guys, I think this is a good moment to take a little break and hear a word from our presenting sponsor, Trion Solutions. We'll be right back.
Companies are competing for talent like never before. With the complexities of handling tasks like payroll, benefits administration, and other HR functions, it's easy to see how a professional employer organization like Trion Solutions makes all the difference. Trion empowers businesses of all sizes to attract and retain talent by offering access to top-tier healthcare and employee benefit plans. With Trion, you don't have to grow it alone. Visit RelyOnTrion.com.
You can always rely on Trion.
Welcome back to Members on the Mic with the Troy Chamber of Commerce. I'm Tara Tomczyk-Cusack, and I am joined here today with Sheila Denstead and our special guest, Barton Morris from the law offices of Barton Morris. So what do you see on the horizon for the legalization of cannabis across the country?
There's no doubt that there is going to be the federal legalization of marijuana. It's just a matter of when. In the past couple of years, there have been, for the first time, legislation that has been passed by the House of Representatives. It hasn't gotten through the Senate yet, but even that has demonstrated that there is a movement towards the legalization of marijuana. This is an issue that is going to materialize in Congress. And for the first time, we have a United States president who has now twice put his support behind the legalization of marijuana, and also specifically in this case has called for the pardon or commutation of those that are perhaps still in prison because of marijuana, and the expungement of those convictions. So that's
a big step.
Right, and that's the president that has done that for the very first time, and so it signals the fact that we are moving in the right direction, and soon, and really the biggest issues is, like I said, it's the banking and the tax issues, right? It's just so penalizing to the industry, and now our Congress knows it, and they're moving forward slowly but surely, and when that does happen, it's going to create, of course, a lot of more opportunity, like these penalties that the industry is suffering right now. They're going to be removed, and there's going to be a lot more people in the industry. Of course, there's going to be interstate commerce, because right now any cannabis that's grown here in Michigan can't travel outside of the state. So, and in addition to that, it's going to eliminate a lot of the unregulated, unlicensed activity that's going on as well, that's competing with the licensed, regulated market. And so you're going to see cannabis be more
legitimate for the most part.
It's going to be legitimate, and it's going to be more closely aligned with the laws related to alcohol.
And sorry to interrupt, but one of the things too is I think a lot of times people struggle with this being legitimate business. And I think the reality is that it is legal in the state. So we have to recognize these industries as an industry. And I still think that while people look at this as a controversial topic, it really is still a business. And I think that's the part where sometimes it gets glazed over, that these are not businesses. And I mean, we have to make sure we're looking at the laws and making sure that people are understanding of this.
We've only had legalized our recreational adult use marijuana here now for 3 years. And so it's going to take a little bit more time for it to be normalized. But every year that goes by, there's more and more people that are accepting of it, and then recognize this is no longer a criminal issue. This is a business issue.
Correct.
So based on what you've just talked about and looking at the country as is, how does Michigan compare with some of the other states? And if it does become legalized, where do you see Michigan going with it?
Michigan, interestingly, we created adult use, both medical and adult use marijuana laws through a ballot initiative, which means that a group of people like myself got a bunch of support. We wrote out our own law and got it passed through a vote. This is different than a legislative initiative. And the reason why this is an important distinction is because the legislature can't change the law without a 3/4 majority, which means that we're kind of stuck with what we created. And I was one of these people that helped create it, but it wasn't perfect, right? Now we would have done things differently. So Michigan is kind of unique in that sense, whereas other states like New York, Chicago, most other states that are now adopting laws for adult use marijuana, they're doing it legislatively, and so they have the benefit of looking at Michigan and other states and how the mistakes that we've made and trying to do it better. They're still making mistakes, unfortunately, but they still have the ability to be able to do it better and legislatively. So, to answer your question, Michigan still is now the number 2 state in the country when it comes to cannabis sales. Well, I know, behind California. But we have a long way to go. We still have these laws, these medical and recreational laws that are separate, and they're operating kind of like similarly but separately, and it makes very little sense to a lot of people that don't understand it. And so Michigan, while again we were early on, but the fact that we were early on has caused some problems, and many people can see what's happening now is that we have a significant oversupply of cannabis in the industry. It's causing a lot of businesses to close, but it's good for consumers. Consumers are now getting really good prices on cannabis. The price per ounce has dropped beneath $100 per ounce for the first time in the industry's history here in Michigan, and so there's going to be some growing pains. It's going to continue to happen, but eventually everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I never thought I'd be having these conversations on a podcast.
Yeah.
It's I mean, in itself, it's like, oh, this is a standard conversation. So I kind of enjoy that.
I know there's so many questions that are going through my head right now, and I know that we have to stay on track.
So I guess one thing too is that obviously what you work in cannabis law, but you also work in law. So this is not the only category that you're covering or you're working in. So what other types of industries do you serve, and what other types of law inspires you and things that you want to work on?
My firm specializes in a number of different things
Yeah.
now. We have a few lawyers that are doing criminal law still, with regard, and in addition to like the administrative criminal stuff that happens. So, but criminal law, and then the cannabis, of course, which really is a lot of business and regulatory law. And so, what we've learned is that we can take our expertise that we've demonstrated in cannabis, a regulated industry, and we are now servicing other regulated industries, mostly the hospitality industry, because the hospitality industry has liquor licensing. And what we've realized is that they're actually very similar in the manner of which that they are administered. And so we're doing persisting like a restaurant, opening up a new restaurant, or maybe expanding to multiple locations, or buying and selling of restaurants, or maybe like raising money for restaurants by adding new partners. And so it's a lot of corporate law, real estate, and regulatory administrative licensing law.
Okay. Well, it's obviously now we know why you joined the Troy Chamber, because of all the restaurants. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I
are
moved
the
to
Mecca.
Troy. I was in Royal Oak for like the last 10 years, and I wanted to be in Troy because I felt as though Troy was a place where there's just a lot more activity,
Yeah.
and it just fits much better for my business. And
Royal Oak is great too. We'll say
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Royal Oak has been great,
Yeah.
but I had to take a step further, and I think then Troy seemed to be a great fit for me, and it's proven to be true.
Yeah, and you picked a good spot, a good footprint for you to be on Big Beaver. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here today. Thank you for enlightening us on so many things. And again, I think we could do a whole nother podcast
Yeah.
on just cannabis alone. But what would you like to leave our listeners with today? What nugget?
Well, I can say that my firm and my practice and this whole experience with cannabis really started with with a passion, right? My passion was I saw the inequities that were happening with cannabis and unlawful treatment, unfair treatment from police. And I just followed that, and it worked out. It worked out in that I had found something that I was good at and found something that I was really passionate about. And I think that that's the reason of my firm's success. And I think that now I see that same thing happening with the hospitality industry. I've seen now that there's a lot of issues that I think are really important that need to be addressed. And now I'm getting behind those, and I'm really enjoying that. I think ultimately at the end of the day, if you love what you're doing and you're passionate about it, it's going to be a fun day every day you get up, and it's going to be a successful enterprise, what you choose to do.
you can obviously see
Absolutely.
that passion just coming out of you every time you're speaking about it. So obviously you saw the inequities and you saw the need, and you were able to fulfill that and make the change that was needed. So
Yeah, and it wasn't just me, but I joined.
I would hope not.
I joined a group of people that I saw were going to make this happen, and I just I just participated, and that's really what I think has been a great story, because things can change. And I think as attorneys kind of feel as though that we are kind of, we can make change happen.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool about my industry and about my profession, is that we can do stuff, but it's not just attorneys, right? Like I joined a bunch of people that were interested in change, and we did change. And there's still a lot of things that need to change, but wow, it's been a really great experience.
Yeah. Well, and talk about leaving with a nugget. I think one of the big nuggets is if you see something and you want to make that change, participate, be a part of something. And I think you've proven that. So
Thank you.
awesome. Well, thank you so much. Obviously, guys, that's all we have for you today on Members on the Mic with the Troy Chamber. Thank you much for joining us. Special thanks to our guest, Barton Morris from the law offices of Barton Morris. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And obviously our presenting sponsor, Trion Solutions. To learn more about joining the Troy Chamber, go to troychamber.com. Thanks so much and have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.